Greetings, YouTube! Welcome back to Just Punch It. I'm PunchBot, your host. Make sure you like, subscribe, and hit the bell button so you don't miss out on any of my videos. This video is going to be talking about a Transformers 1 movie and how it could fit in a Hasbro cinematic universe. And before we get really deep diving into that, I wanna say a few things. This video is going to be following a bit of a different format. In previous formats, we always did what went wrong, what went right, the fix, and why Hasbro should do it, and then ending on the plot of the movie, or the basic plot of the movie. I will go into more details on the plot in a separate video for each of these movies, because, like, let's be honest, that's the stuff you're here for. But I do want to say this one's going to be a little bit different because Transformers is kind of a different beast versus G.I. Joe and Power Rangers. So in previous videos, I would have said, like, okay, here's what went wrong with this media. Well, and here's the thing. With Transformers, a lot of the stuff that they did wrong with the previous media, Paramount Pictures and Hasbro have kind of fixed it a little bit. It's not like with the other ones where they just keep kind of making the same mistakes, or they make completely different ones because they try to go too much into a character in one direction or another. Transformers largely does improve as you watch the films. Like you'll notice it if you watch Rise of the Beast and then go back and look at, Transformers 1 from the Michael Bay films. There's a big difference in those movies. And Rise of the Beast is arguably the best, I would say. That movie and Bumblebee are arguably the best movies in the Transformers universe right now, currently. So largely a lot of the problems that were in the Bay films have kind of been addressed in the newer ones. Honestly, there's really not a whole lot to do here. In earlier films, basically a lot of the problems were that, you had human characters that really didn't make much sense why they were there. You had too much focus on spectacle and not enough story. And of course you had like bad camera angles, which a lot of that stuff all kind of got fixed over time. So there's really not a lot to go over there. So there's really only thing that I can say is what went right, and what went right with it is that obviously Paramount was really smart about learning how to fix those problems and move on and make better movies as they went forward. Unfortunately, Rise of the Beast, even though I would argue it's one of the better movies out of the Transformers line of live action films. I know that it suffered from some let's just say it suffered from some biases from certain fans, and that is what that movie suffered from. But there's really not a whole lot that can be done to fix that. That's just gonna have to be something that culturally where audiences have to get over. So I'm not gonna focus too much on that. I guess we're going right into the fix side of things because honestly, there's really not a whole lot there. So one of the things is that is a fix is going to be kind of interesting because it kind of has it's kind of connected to the why Hasbro should do this, and it is to the toys. So a lot of the times, like when I looked at the Rise of the Beast and the Transformers 1 figures, I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't wholly impressed. Now, some of that stuff is my personal biases, like because I like certain size Transformers. I don't like the huge, large robots. I like the smaller ones, so that's just, that's just me. But one of the problems I noticed, especially with Rise of the Beast, because that's the one that I really like, I looked at the toys and I look at the figures, and I look at them and I go, okay, your robots are all wrong. Your figures are the wrong sizes, or you have like characters that weren't seen in the movie. Like, it doesn't even make sense. Like, also, like, some of the confusion was like you saw like two figures of like Scorponok, even though like Scorponok is kind of like a drone type character in the Rise of the Beast film. So I was a little bit confused by that, but I digress. The point is that we're going to kind of go with the toys here, and I think we're going to make it make sense. We're going to streamline some of these figures just a little bit. Like, you have to have obvious ones. Like, you have to have, like, all of the Transformers have to have a figure, of course. And Hasbro probably gets annoyed by that because they're like, oh, I got to make so many. But, I got the fix. Also, we're not going to do gimmicky things. Like, for example, in the Rise of the Beast thing with the toys, they had these weaponizer Transformers that were like, they had two modes. They had like a beast mode and they had a weapon mode, which is cool, but it wasn't in the film. If you're going to have something like that, you got to have it in the film. Like, you got to have a Transformer that, like, hey, my role is I am a weaponizer robot. Like, that is That is what their thing is. Like, have it in the film. If you're going to make a toy about it, have it in the film. So, how do we fix this? So first and foremost, we're going to make a narrative reason for why certain figures are existing. So one of the things that I'm going to be talking about is, because we're going to be, in the story part of it, is much more connected to the toys than in the previous videos that are on this topic. So let me kind of fix it around, because we're going to kind of put the why Hasbro should do this at the end more than anything, and I'm going to do the story first. So the story is really simple. We're going to have the big bad of the movie be Soundwave, because the idea in my head is, like, we need to show that the Decepticons have more than one Decepticon that is truly capable of being the leader of the faction. And also, we're going to do this with the Autobots too, but I'll go into more details in the plot-only version of this video. But long story short, we're gonna be showing how dangerous Soundwave really is. So he is gonna come to Earth. He's gonna crash land on Earth, and eventually he will find and interact with the Autobots, along with Noah Diaz, who is a central figure to this universe, because he is kind of our Agent Coulson. He is, spying on the Power Rangers for G.I. Joe. He is a member of G.I. Joe, and he is the liaison to the Autobots for the Joes. He is kind of the glue. He is going to be in, like, pretty much every movie for the most part. Of course, the Autobots will get a warning that Soundwave is on Earth, and that's going to cause them to gather. And our lineup will be Bumblebee, RC, Wheeljack, Mirage, Optimus, and our only Maximal we are keeping is Cheetor, because Cheetor is the most recognizable Maximal across multiple Transformers things, and of course he's been in multiple media where he, outside of just being a Maximal. So we're going to go ahead and have him be the only one there from Rise of the Beast. And then, of course, there will be a conflict with Soundwave, which will lead to him revealing something about his allies. And this is where kind of the toys also connect, because basically what's going to pop out of his chest is these two Cybertronian chips. And those chips scan Bumblebee and Cheetor. And these chips then transform into evil versions of them. And this, of course, for our movie will be Ravage and Rumble. And Rumble and Ravage will still have all their powers that they've been seen in other media to have. They just are going to be sharing, like, robot molds with those robots, with Cheetor and Bumblebee. A battle will break out. Somebody will likely get injured. And then the Autobots will retreat because they're not prepared, because we all know the Decepticons are really good at ambush tactics. This will then, Soundwave will discover, well, why are the Autobots on Earth? Of course, Energon will play a role into that. So Soundwave will then go, I need to get, all the Decepticons over here. So he is going to build the space bridge. And of course, the Autobots realize the threat there, that if there's a space bridge on Earth, the Decepticons' entire army can just attack, and they are heavily outnumbered as is. Like, they were outmatched by just Soundwave and, 2 cassette bots. Imagine what the entire Decepticon army could do if, if the only people who are here that can competently fight off, as far as the Autobots know in this story, are 6 Autobots and a well-armed human. They tried to stop Soundwave. Now, they are not successful, and Noah has to call in some G.I. Joe buddies, which the Autobots, of course, would be skeptical and thinking, like, oh, great, more humans who they're not going to be able to help us. But, Snake Eyes and Scarlet will probably prove that to be like, you underestimated us, which, is always fun. And the humans are kind of the reason why the Autobots win the war in the first place, where that's the implication in a lot of the media. The final battle is the space bridge gets opened, and of course, Soundwave summons a bunch of Decepticon drones to invade Earth and attack. They're going to kill the Autobots, and then they're going to, enslave the humans, mine the Earth, and this is all beneath Megatron. He's just, the Earth is, at this point in the story, is kind of a backwater planet, so Megatron's like, Soundwave, you handle it. We don't even see Megatron, Soundwave is just like handling it. Of course, a battle ensues. Optimus is forced to destroy the space bridge, which he probably wanted to keep so he could go home, but it's the only way to save Earth. And also the drones, the Decepticon drones that are seen in this film are motorcycle drones. So they have a robot mode, and then they largely look like Cybertronian motorcycles. I'll bring up why that is in the last part of the video. The Autobots, with the help of the G.I. Joes that Noah called, which would be, I would pick Snake Eyes and Scarlet, armed with some of the, better weaponry of the Joes, they managed to destroy the drones, destroy the bridge, and at least destroy Rumble. Maybe even, seemingly destroy Ravage, and then heavily damage Soundwave, where Soundwave has to go into hiding. One of the ideas in my head was, you see, Soundwave grab the severed head of Ravage and drive off in vehicle form, and the vehicle form would be something that he picks up at the end of the film. So the Autobots are like, crap, we don't know where he is, we don't know if he's a vehicle, they don't know if he's a vehicle, what vehicle form he's taken, etc. I like the idea of he now has actually accurately used the whole, robots in disguise thing to his advantage, where now the Autobots don't know to hit him, because he's turned a corner and now he's using a form he didn't have through the entire film. Which all leaves on brand for Decepticons. And of course, the Autobots did win the day. They saved the city from the Decepticon drones. They killed hundreds of them. The G.I. Joes are cleaning up the mess. And then, of course, this opens up to the end credit scene, or the end scene, where Soundwave is sending a distress beacon to the Decepticons. And now we have a Megatron who is pissed off because, he's found out that there's another planet that has Energon, and they need that to win the war. So, that's the whole pitch for the Transformers 1 film of my Hasbro Cinematic Universe, my HCU. Now I'm going to put this at the end. Why am I putting the Y at the end of this? Because one, it's going to sell action figures, and that's kind of the big thing. And I know I'm putting this at the end, which is a little, like I said, the Transformers video has to be a little different because it's a different beast. No pun intended. Yeah. When you think about it, I'm going to have Rumble and Ravage and the Decepticon motorcycle drones share a toy mold with Bumblebee, Cheetor, and RC. So, the only individuals that are going to need their own individual toy, and that's kind of arguable, too, because Mirage also has a car mode. So even technically, Mirage and Wheeljack could, in theory, share a mold with Bumblebee to a point. They're just going to be a different vehicle. They could share the same transformation method. But, assuming if we talk about the minimal of that, that means that they are making, 3 less molds than they had to at the beginning. Which I think that obviously Hasbro will like, because as we all know, those of us who are big fans of Hasbro, is they love to reuse the same mold over and over again. So now I'm just making it make narrative sense to do so. I hope you guys like the details there, like the Cybertronian chips basically being the updated version of the cassette bots, because obviously nobody uses cassettes anymore, and modern audiences are going to be confused. But you know what doesn't go out of style? Microchips or computer chips. Those are things that people can go, oh, that makes sense. That's part of, that's just part of making a computer. So. They're most of the time they're square shaped, so that's what we're gonna borrow that, and there you go. Anyway, guys, I hope you guys like this video. Forgive me if it's a little on the longer side than normal. Like I said, the Transformers video had to be a little different from the previous videos in this line, and then this is going to be kind of a continued theme for the rest of the HCU videos, because we're going to be skipping over the previous media breakdown, because we don't kind of need to do that now, because at this point we are kind of in uncharted territory. Now, I'm not saying I won't be doing anything like looking at the previous media going forward, because we will. It just isn't going to be as modular as it has been in the first 2 videos. Anyway, like, subscribe, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I'm PunchBot, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace!